Thank you very much for listening to this week's talk on the Sedra of Naso, and really anybody who is, especially in Chutz La'aretz, managing to hear this as you emerge from Shavuot into Friday Erev Shabbat. So there isn't much time, so I'll keep it very brief. And the observation is that even though we've just had the momentous event of Matan Torah, we don't press the reset button and start from the beginning. We carry on our rhythm. Previous Shabbat, we read the Sedra of Bamidbar. This Shabbat, we're reading the Sedra of Naso. And this is our eternal pulse. But I think that when we come fresh from the Sinai experience, I think that we need to have heightened levels of sensitivity and be that much more receptive to the messages that are with us always, but particularly relevant in the times that we find ourselves at any given point. And referencing those, I want to dedicate this learning to the safe and speedy release of all of the hostages currently captive in Gaza, and the safety and success of all of the soldiers in the IDF as they carry out their heroic missions to keep Yisrael safe all over the world, but specifically in Gaza and Israel at the moment. And this is, I think that the connections that we can find between the certain content of the Sedra of Naso are really so striking. And although Naso contains a number of different subjects that appear to be unrelated but actually are connected, but that's not for now. We start off with the duties of the families of the Gershon and Merari. We then have the list of the Levites who are fit to serve, and the sanctity of the camp, and laws of certain offerings, and the gifts to the Kohanim, and the laws of the Sota, a woman who is suspected of adultery, and the Nazir, the Nazarite, who took a vow to abstain from wine. And then what I want to focus on today is Birkat Kohanim. And Rabbi Sachs zt'l, in his book, I Believe, writes a very beautiful essay on this subject called The Ethic of Love. And he talks about the priestly blessings that we find in this week's Sedra. Yivarecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, Yo'eh Hashem panav elecha v'chneka, Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. And although they are there to be given by the priests with a blessing in front of them, we'll read what he says because he expresses it so beautifully. These are among the oldest continuously used words of blessing ever. We recite them daily at the beginning of the morning service. Some say them last thing at night. We use them to bless our children on Friday nights. They are often used to bless the bride and groom at weddings. They are widely used by non-Jews also. Their simplicity, their cumulative 3-word, 5-word, 7-word structure, their ascending movement from protection to grace to peace, all make them a miniature gem of prayer, whose radiance has not diminished in the more than 3,000 years since their formulation. And this says it so beautifully. And looking at that prayer, Rabbi Sachs asks 3 questions. He says, why are the priests given this opportunity, this gift, this duty to bless the people in this way? And then he asks, why is it a mitzvah, that this is actually a birchat ha-mitzvah, to bless? And then Rabbi Sachs asks, why do human beings bless? Blessing surely is something that can really only come from Hashem. So why does, as it were, Hashem use the Kohanim in the particular circumstances when they bless the people as his conduit? Because even in the blessing, we acknowledge that the blessing, the gift, actually comes from Hashem, but the priests are still used as the agents. So why does Hashem not just bless the people directly himself? So the question, why the priests? I actually want to refer to a different possible answer than the one that's written in the essay. And we find that in chapter 1 of Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Fathers, that we will read this Shabbat that we read Naso in the Mincha prayer. After Mincha, Shabbat Mincha, we will read the first chapter of Ethics of Our Fathers, and chapter 1, Mishnah 12, talks about the specific qualities of the priests, or specifically Aharon HaKohen, the first priest, and we can use him as the blueprint. So Hillel v'Shammai kiblu mehem. Hillel and Shammai received the tradition from them. Hillel says, Havei mitalmidov shel Aharon, be of the disciples of Aharon, ohev shalom v'rodev shalom, loving peace and pursuing peace, ohev es habrios, loving all people. Brios means literally all of Hashem's creations, all human beings whom Hashem has created, umakorvan la Torah, drawing them near to Torah. And I think that we can suggest an answer to the question, why priests, by looking at this Mishnah, because the unique qualities of Aharon were such that he had a progression. He loved peace, and then he didn't just love it, he actively pursued it. He used to if he would hear that there was an argument between people, he would try to approach one and say certain things that would make them kindly disposed towards the other, and then do the same, so that it was just easier to make amends. And this combination of loving peace but not stopping there, actively pursuing peace, and then this came from the root of loving all the people, and we've got this word brios, this wide definition of human beings. And that doesn't mean that sometimes reprimands won't be given. That doesn't mean that sometimes when people do things that are wrong, certain actions have to be taken. But the overarching principle that defined Aharon was this combination of valuing peace and doing his utmost to achieve that peace, and the love of all people. And really, we see later on when Aharon passes away, and the people are absolutely distraught, and they mourn for 30 days. This is the origin of the custom of Shloshim, of observing 30 days of mourning for members of one's immediate family. And so this was clearly reciprocated, this love of peace and this love of people. And I think that when we contemplate the priestly blessings, it is no surprise that we're going to say it in so many different situations, because although it belongs to the priests, in inverted commas, we borrow it from them. We borrow it on Friday night when we bless our children. We borrow it under the chuppah when we bless bride and groom. And so it is something that the priests are generous with in a way. And the question of why is it a mitzvah? Why is this something that it has the status of a mitzvah? And again, we can see how Hashem prioritizes these values of peace. And I think that we live in these times that even though in this mad upside down world where good is evil and evil is good, and we see that lies have the status of truth and truth has the status of lies, and you could just despair. But actually the truth of the matter is that the emphasis of our way of life, of our prayers, of our efforts, this is historical fact, whether it is in the land of Israel now and over the past, ever since 1948, and the desire to live in peace with our neighbours. And we can see this is something that permeates our culture, and this is given the status of a mitzvah because it is so crucial. But really, there will be times where to keep the peace, one has to go to war. And I think this is a situation that we find ourselves in now. And then the final question of why people bless and not Hashem. And I think that this is my suggestion, that this is part of the turning in and turning out that is so much a theme of our way of life, that we have to find peace within ourselves and find love within ourselves, and then we are able to radiate that peace and that love to those that surround us. And I think that this is a very important part of the priestly blessing, and we can see this in action. And just something that occurred to me, I was privileged to hear a soldier who was fighting in the war in Gaza just recently, and he was badly injured, and he was talking about his experiences, and they were so inspiring and so moving, and the heroism that we know about, the selflessness that we know about, that we have to be so grateful for. These are things that when you actually hear somebody who has been in a situation, who has been wounded, who has seen so much around him that certainly could derail anyone, but they have a mission, they will go back. This young man, he had a baby, and while he was in Gaza, he left Gaza for a few hours the morning of his son's bris, and within those few hours he was back serving. And really the gratitude and the admiration for all of the people in this situation, not only the soldiers, but their families, their wives, their children, who are part of this incredible effort of defending Yisrael. And in his talk, he was saying, what are the things that he takes away? What are the lessons that he is holding on to? And even though he's going to have to undergo at least a year of rehabilitation, and he is in a lot of pain a lot of the time, if not constantly. And he said the two things that he takes away are the importance of love, and also that you should dan lakol adam lakaf. You should judge everybody and find that they are meritorious. Judge them in their favor. If you have a possibility of judging them either in a negative way, looking at them negatively, or thinking, well, we don't know what position they're in, why they possibly have said what they've said and done what they've done. Let's give them the benefit of this and still look upon them in a positive way. And I just felt, as I was preparing this idea, this lesson, I just thought that this soldier and those like him, they are almost like our Kohanim today. And they don't have the status of Kohanim potentially. I don't know if he does or doesn't. But really, he is showing us by the intense love that he has for Yisrael, doing what he is doing for Yisrael, and then that he should be in such a challenging situation. And the messages that he comes out with are this idea of love, that this ties in with the priestly blessing that had to be said with love, and the idea of judging everybody favorably. And I think that as we come out of Matan Torah, as we go into the Seder of Naso, these are certainly things that we can reflect upon, and please God, be uplifted and be worthy of the incredible love and commitment that is being shown to Yisrael by the soldiers in the IDF, and we dedicate this to them. And please God, their missions of keeping Yisrael safe, removing the merciless, butcherous threat that we face. Please God, with Hashem's help, enabling the hostages to come home safely. And please God, we should go into Shabbat, and it should be a Shabbat Shalom for everybody. Thank you very much for listening.